welcome back for another special guest interview. Very excited today to be joined by the one and only Amanda Fairhall from Future Cheer. Got your Future Cheer hat on today, we should specify.
Yeah.
I almost called you Amanda Bryan, even though it's been very many years. So I don't switch these things over in my head easily. It's the fact that at least your name is on here, so I can manage to remember that. But anyway, thank you for joining today. I know we've been trying to set this up for a little while, so I'm very excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll start where I always start with these things. Give us, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, which I'm sure is not too many people in the UK and cheer these days, but just give us, you know, a little rundown on who you are, what you do, your background, if you want to delve into all of that stuff, and because I know there's some fun stories back there. So yeah, give us the rundown.
So my current role is with Future Cheer, and I mainly, when we're sort of in the swing of our normal season, my role is overseeing scoring, overseeing judges training, also just sort of liaising with coaches, building the schedules for events, figuring out people's crossover issues, of which there are many, and just sort of day-to-day anything that I can do to sort of assist with the company. Previous to this, I mean, my involvement with cheerleading goes back to when I was 10 years old, so over 25 years.
We won't be specific.
And I was doing gymnastics, and my cheerleading coach, or my gymnastics coach, was an American lady, decided she was going to set up a cheerleading team. So I joined that, and it was obviously worlds apart from what we know today. But yeah, so I was in one of probably the first cheerleading programs in the country, and stayed with them through until I was about 18 or 19 and went to university. And through my time with them, I was obviously an athlete and then a coach, and then from there went on to be an instructional camp staffer for BCA before Future Cheer existed, and judged at competitions as well. So I really got my start with them, and they are still around today, rebranded under Crystals. But yeah, that's where I started cheerleading all that time ago. So it's really nice for me to have grown up with the sport as it's grown and expanded in this country, and I think that sort of helps for us at Future Cheer, because I've got that kind of knowledge and can remember how things used to be, and know a lot of the coaches, and we grew up cheering together. And like even yourself, I think when we were on FC instructional staff, I think your first ever camp we did together with Mortenberg in Leeds, I think.
Yeah.
So that many moons ago. So it's not, and it's nice, you know, it's really great to see all these people that I grew up cheering with, where they've gone to and what they've done and their own programs. But yeah, so that's my experience really, and my background is, I feel like I've been around forever. And it's nice to still be around that, and to have come back to that, having gone to university and had a different kind of career choice in place, but actually circling back and working with Future Cheer, which I love.
Yeah, I think I feel a bit like this. I think you probably feel the same, as it was sort of in like a generation, and you go a little further back even than I do with stuff, but we're sort of in this generation of coaches now, and, you know, people in the business who've lived through almost the birth of an expansion of all-star cheer in the UK, what I'd really call all-star cheer. You go back a little bit further into when it was more traditional cheer, maybe, I don't know, but
yeah, but yeah, I mean, we still had cheers and chants in our routines. I think the last time I was on a competition mat, so I mean, I would be like a level 0 cheerleader with my no tumbling skills. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be doing very well at a tryout nowadays. But yeah,
the world of
exactly.
difference.
It's very different. It is very different. But it's been exciting to be a part of it and to see how it grows, and it continues to grow.
Definitely. And we should mention, as I say, you're here with your Future Cheer hat on today, but you're also a director at large. Is that the right title for Sport Cheer England as well? And heavily involved in the development of that too.
Yeah, and that's another kind of exciting part of my role at the moment as well. And just to be able to help the community kind of steer through this pandemic situation and help kind of with the guidance around that. It's been good. It's been a lot of work. It's been hard work, but we're happy to do it and help out where we can and kind of guide that.
Sure. Well, we're going to start with pandemic related issues, really.
Of course.
Just to be topical. Not that anybody isn't, bored to death of talking about these things, but I know you're going to have some insight and things that's going to be really interesting from a different point of view. I was really, really keen to get you on because I feel like, and I don't know whether everybody else sort of shares this thing with, as an event producer, a representative and event producer, you're always sort of in contact with your customers, obviously, but mostly you're responsive. You're responding to questions and queries and concerns and things. I feel like EPs, you don't get a lot of opportunity to be sort of proactive in your, talking to people and that kind of thing. So I'm excited to give that avenue a little bit for you to talk to the people.
Yeah, not just at score check or, when they're arriving at the event. Yeah.
Where you don't have angry people in front of you waving a sheet of paper, or some sort of crossover issue. So we're going to start in the realms of lockdowns and COVID. And I'm just interested to get your perspective, really. I think a lot of the sort of media, the social media and stuff in cheer right now is quite rightly focused on athlete welfare and keeping clubs going, the efforts people are going to keep their athletes engaged and keep the business, keep their businesses, if they are businesses, or their clubs relevant and functional and ready to go when we are allowed back in. But obviously this whole lockdowns and pandemic and everything has had a huge effect on all of us service providers as well. And I can't imagine really the effect it has for you guys as an EP who are, basically completely unable to do any sort of, your core business of competition. Yeah. So how, give us your perspective on how that has affected you guys specifically, or perhaps EPs in general, and how you've dealt with that stuff, what you've been doing for the last year.
What have you been doing for the last year?
You've just been sat down drinking tea, I know.
I wish. Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, like you say, our core business is running large scale events, which obviously have not been able to happen in person. And so we ran our last event the second weekend of March last year. So it was our Spotlight Showdown event in Essex. And, it was, I think, 2 weeks after that we all kind of got locked down. And yeah, I mean, at the time we were all still in that mindset of, okay, well, it will be a few months and it'll be okay. In our heads, we were thinking, by sort of April, Adventure in Atlantis will probably be okay. And then, as has happened throughout the last year, the goalposts get moved and keep moving. But still, we were, really hopeful that Bournemouth would go ahead, that Nationals would go ahead, and everyone that we spoke to was saying, that's our aim point. We're hoping we've got everything crossed for Nationals, and obviously that didn't happen. But for us, the whole way through, and something that Tess, who, if anyone is listening and doesn't know, is the owner of Future Cheer, something that she has always been very, very adamant that she wants to do is she wants to keep in touch with the coaches, keep in touch with our customers, because we want to make sure that they're okay, because without them, then we don't exist. And it's not only about business, it's that these are people that, going back to, we've grown up with these people, we care about them, we care about their businesses, we care about how they're doing. So as many of us as we could, so myself, really, Bonnie, Tessa, were on the phones, phoning people, seeing how they were, you know, how are you coping, trying to get kind of a handle on how everyone was feeling. And I think like up to a certain point, everyone was really optimistic, and that's wonderful. But then it gets to a point where maybe participation is dropping off a little bit because the kids feel like they haven't got anything to aim for. So for us, we really wanted to, it would have been in one way easy for us to just kind of shut down and not do anything, but that's not really what we're about. We want to, just like all of the coaches we've seen have adapted and, you know, done things differently, we're obviously going to do the same thing. So it was important for us to keep in touch with the coaches, not only by calling, but sort of in the lead ups to events that weren't happening, especially Bournemouth, and to Worlds and Summit, we wanted to just do little things. So like pulling together videos, celebrating those teams that would have been at Summit, celebrating the teams that would have been at Worlds, doing something for Bournemouth, like putting out like we did the sort of history of Future Cheer and the history of that event, and putting those videos out. And we know like it isn't maybe a lot, but it's something, and it's something to keep people excited and keep people engaged, and to just sit at home and, you know, watch something and watch the thing that they love. So just little things like that. And then obviously we worked on putting together our virtual competitions, and we work with Cheer Replay, which is an American-based company that if you come to our events, you're familiar with it because it's how you get your deductions or legality videos. So Tim, who owns Cheer Replay, came to us and said, you know, I've got this app, I've developed this app, and we want to be able to help you guys do something, whether that's live virtual events or pre-recorded virtual events, or a hybrid of both. We can work with you on that. So that was the route that we took, and I think it was important to us to try and do our virtual events in a way that still felt like a competition experience. So our virtual events, you submit your video via an app, and it gives you like a 30-minute time slot, so you can start the time slot for a team, and then within that 30 minutes you can run the routine as many times as you want, but at the end you have to select the clip that you are going to upload. And I think it gives that competition element still. It's not just filming it as many times as you can until you hit it perfect, which is great. We want you to hit it perfect, but we also want to make it fair for everybody, and still give the kids that excitement and a bit of pressure, which I think really adds to that experience. So we've been able to run, we've run 2 virtual events so far over the last season, and then we have another one, a Super Cyber event, which is basically like an amalgamation of the regional events we haven't been able to run. So that is planned to go out the 22nd and 23rd of May. So we've shifted that a little bit later now, just because of everything opening back up and the dates around that. So, and I think the people that have taken part in them so far, it was for them, it was a way, like I say, of keeping the athletes engaged and giving them something to work towards. It's the dog barking in the background, because it really, so many of the coaches were saying our kids just live for competitions. They absolutely love competing, and without that they're finding it really hard to stay involved, and this virtual event gave them something to look forward to. Yeah, so I think people have found that really a good way of keeping people involved and keeping people interested, and with something to aim for and a bit of a goal. So that's really what we've been doing, and now we are sort of planning for what we're going to do next and what we can still do this season.
Yeah, the virtual competition thing is so interesting. I think it's obviously it's like it was sort of thrown, and I've talked to people who are like, well, I've been considering this virtual competition format for years and thinking actually it's a good solution to some of the economics of the sport anyway. But obviously you got kind of forced into this position of, you know, wanting to try and make this work. And there's obviously, like you've alluded to, there's some pitfalls with doing that. You know, if you just give everyone unlimited time to film, it's a bit of a faux competition, really. But it's certainly great to have that to aim for. And of course, you can see it working fairly well in the States currently. I don't know the outward success, but certainly
and
they're
Australia, I
engaging
think,
with that.
in Australia, ASCA ran their nationals, which is in November, is normally like one of the largest events in the world, not just outside of America, like including American events. It's a huge competition. And Steve and Rosie, again, they, the same as I said, worked with Cheer Replay and pulled off an amazing
it
weekend.
Sounds like theirs worked really well.
Absolutely.
Of course, we've been a bit scuppered by the fact that teams haven't really even been able to get in the gym and train for things, which is sort of was where I was going. It's not really allowed it to even get off the ground, if you like, unfortunately for us, versus in the US, where they can at least, in a lot of places, get in the gym and train and film, even if they can't do the mass events. So it's such an interesting thing to me. And I certainly wonder if there's still going to be a place for that going forward, because I know one of the big benefits that I've spoken to people who are doing virtual competitions about is, I've got a lot of people ask me about, do you think UK teams would want to do virtual events in the future and compete against US teams and stuff, which is certainly a potential, benefit of doing that.
It opens it up. Yeah, and I think particularly with the like the All-Star Link, the Cheer Replay technology, it allows you to stream in from anywhere. So effectively you could have a live event happening in the UK, and if you had a couple of big screens in the arena, live stream in the team from another country, and you could have them competing in the same division, and that's that sort of hybrid event option that's definitely exciting.
It could that'd be cool. That could potentially lead down those avenues, and really there's been a lot of talk about the pandemic creating opportunities for invention and entrepreneurism a little, and so it could be interesting to see if that is something that develops within the sport. And
I think there's definitely a place for it. I think I don't think it will ever replace live competitions, because as we all know, we're all desperate to get back to it, and there's nothing quite like that and that environment, but I think there's definitely a place for it, and connecting those international teams and kind of bringing us all a little bit closer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly, even from my business side of things, just thinking ahead to the opportunities that Zoom classes and things have opened up now, and how that potentially then directs when we are back open, if you like, again, why not, if I need to do a couple of hours consultation with a team, why not do it over Zoom rather than drive 200 miles to the gym or whatever? There's a lot of opportunities there. Yeah,
and I think in the kind of environment where we're all probably a bit more conscious of finances and not putting too much pressure on parents, it enables you to have a kind of another pricing level, another kind of way to open things up to people that maybe they wouldn't have been able to take advantage of previously.
Yeah, definitely. So looking ahead a little more then, now that we've got, some level of idea where we're going, what does the next few months and the next year or so look like for you guys?
For us, sort of hearing the announcement last week, it gave us a bit of hope that we'll be able to run something live for this season before it finishes. So for us, our plan for the rest of the season is our Super Cyber event, which, as I said, is in May. Our Brighton event, which we're hoping can go ahead. That's the very last weekend in May. So what we're looking at there, because obviously that will be before this 21st of June potential deadline of everything opening back up. So what we're looking at there is running a live event, but it will be on a more limited capacity, which is fine. We're fine with doing that. It's something that, we often run events in sessions, and with a kind of view of keeping a close eye on the capacity of our events anyway. So that's fine. It will just be a kind of logistical task between us to figure that out, and traffic flow and things, but nothing that we can't handle. So there's that event, and then Bournemouth, we all have fingers crossed that we'll be able to run that kind of as normal. Obviously we will go with whatever restrictions are still in place. We don't know whether at that point in time there'll still be any rules around mask wearing or social distancing, but we know that we're going to be able to run it in some capacity. We're pretty sure of that based on the information that we've got from the government, obviously, and also from the venue itself. So I know that for any coaches out there who have any concerns about the BIC being a mass vaccination centre, yes, it is, but it won't be. That contract will be ending before we're due to go in there. So I know we've had a few people panicked about that, but
yeah, I've heard that one a few times.
Don't worry, we're very much in touch. Tessa's in touch with the venues, all of our venues constantly. So yeah, so that's what we hope is going to happen for the rest of this season. Looking towards next season, I know that from conversations we've been having, a lot of people are eager to maybe get started a little bit sooner than they normally would. I mean, we're one of the only EPs, I think, that run events this side of the Christmas anyway. But I know a lot of teams normally maybe aren't looking to get out until February, but maybe are looking to start a bit sooner. So for us, we're looking at maybe adding in an additional event around September, sort of end of September time. But it would be a bit of a different take on an event as normal, because we know that is still early in the season. So it'd be more of an opportunity to kind of showcase or exhibit what you have got and get direct feedback from the judges. So we're looking at having like one of the head judges or myself will meet with you and give you really like a lot more in-depth feedback, review your video with you. And I mean, for us personally as an EP, in terms of scoring, we always direct our judges to give as much feedback as possible. I know, especially in the US with kind of the varsity score sheet, that's not always encouraged to give the clients. And I, obviously, as someone who stands at score check, I do understand that, because if one of your judges has told a team to add in a particular skill at a previous event and they do it and then the score's not gone up, I get it. I get why we're not encouraging that kind of specific comment about, well, if you add this in, this is going to give you more points, because it won't always end up that way. But we do want to give people as much feedback as possible, especially at our events at the start of the season, really like just helping people as much as possible. So this is kind of the expansion of that idea and that concept, really. It's giving more feedback. So yeah, so that's looking to be around the end of September. Flight school coaches conference, obviously last year had to be virtual. We're very excited to bring that back as an in-person event, and we are looking at moving that to the Halloween weekend, which means I think we're going to have
parties. Fun party theme is what it means.
Monsters ball. Bring your best costumes. So we'll be releasing more information about that over the next couple of weeks, but yeah, put it in your diaries, the Halloween weekend. And then we also, one of our events, our Disney event, which is normally in March, that is moving to, it's the end of November, and we're really excited about it because it means that Disney will be all dressed up for Christmas and it will be festive and wonderful. So that's something that will be a bit different next season. And then the rest of our events are kind of planned to go ahead as normal. So we're just finalising the last few dates for events for next year, and then that will get put up on the website, and we'll put it on all of our social media. But yeah, we're pretty set. We're set, ready, prepared, ready to go, raring to go.
Fingers crossed, all the goals are met and everything else, and yeah, it can all proceed as normal. I know there's a lot of people crossing their fingers, obviously, for Bournemouth, because it's so many people's favourite event. And yeah, the idea of being able to get that event, I think, at the end of the season, if you can call it a season at this point, for some people. I know there's a bit of a tear, I think, talking to people between, you know, we want to get out and do what we've done, you know, the work that we have been able to put in this year, just give athletes something to work towards, and obviously get their Bournemouth experience, which people live for and plan their summer around. Versus, you know, well, we could get a head start on next season, you know, especially for Worlds teams. They're like, wow, we could actually start the season at the same time as the Americans and Canadians, rather than starting 3 months behind them, and could be a huge advantage. So there is that little bit of tear. And I do see a lot of people considering a hybrid kind of between those two, which is going to be great. But yeah, certainly having that end of season event for this season to focus on. I know the cheer world is sort of crossing its fingers that all proceeds as we're hoping and expecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, right. Expanding, we're going to get, well, maybe controversial here. I'm going to challenge you on this one. Getting into the competition experience is where I wanted to go. So a bit of a recurring theme that I've noticed in conversations recently with a few other coaches and on the coaches hangout has been this, in its most brazen term, this comment from coaches go, I hate competitions. Not because of, no, I should very clearly state here, not because of the competition experience that you guys are providing, which
not
gets raved about. No,
hate my events.
We don't just like hate going to Future Cheer or anything like that. Nothing to do with that. And I don't think anybody's really saying, you know, kids don't enjoy competitions or that the experience isn't good or anything like that. But there seems to be this change in mindset from some coaches, at least. I can't speak for everyone. I'm certainly one of these people, so I'm speaking for myself in part. Over the years of, you know, we used to love competitions, it'd be fun and we'd look forward to it, to now we almost live in fear of it. We're like, oh, competition, it's long days and it's tiring and we're gonna have to fight about scores, and we don't get a lot of it. For me, is I never get time to, I'm lucky if I get to watch a routine anymore. You know, and I know a lot of coaches feel like that way, that they're like, wow, I'll be lucky if I even get to see this team take the floor because I've got to be in warm up with this one. And it's gotten so busy and crazy. So I'm interested to get the flip side of that, if you like, from behind the scenes, on how you feel that competition experience has changed perhaps over the years for coaches, how it's changed for you as an EP, and particularly, you know, in your primary role working with scoring and judging and things. Obviously that's changed massively over the years. But yeah, just your thoughts on that kind of stuff, really.
Well, I think I can see why coaches say that, absolutely, because I think that now more than ever events are high pressure. There's a lot of pressure that coaches put on themselves to do well, and I think that partly, if we think about how cheerleading has evolved here, it used to be something that, I mean, nobody did it as a full-time job. It was something that you did on the side after your normal job, or maybe after you were, you know, coaching after school if you were a junior coach, and it wasn't something that you were relying on for your income. And I think now, because it is more of a business, of course, when you're at competitions, it's important to you that your teams do well and that they do the best that they can, because ultimately that's, you know, that's your livelihood, and that's you, and you care about the kids and you want your kids to do really well. And I think there's a lot more pressure, and it isn't, I mean, certainly when I was cheering, I think the first ever competition that I ever did, I didn't even realize it was a competition. I thought we were just doing a performance like we did at the Summer Fete. So it's completely different now, and I think probably back when I was competing, or even just in, you know, years after that, it was, you got to go away with your teammates, and it was about having fun. And there wasn't, for a start, the scoring systems were obviously completely different. You used to just compete against everybody, and there was no rubric. And every single judge was judging you on every single category, and you weren't going to go and challenge your scores. It just wasn't. It wasn't what you did. It's certainly, you know, not very British.
You just complained that they didn't like you. The judges were biased. They didn't just hate us. They all just want AEC to win. That's all I remember.
Yeah, but you wouldn't dream of going and questioning anything. And I remember like judging BCA competitions back in the day, and you know, I think it was even written in the rules, you know, the judge's decision is final, and there was absolutely no way that you would go and query it. But things evolve, and, you know, as we do, we take our lead from the US a lot, and our scoring systems evolve to kind of be in line with theirs. And as that's happened, it's, you know, rubrics have got tighter, and there's, you know, there is that expectation now that you can go and challenge things. And in a way, for me, involved with scoring, it's easier now, because when I was judging way back in the day, like I say, we were expected to watch everything and score everything, and there was no guidelines. And, you know, you might have a judge that was scoring someone a 5 out of 20, and the other person at the other end of the table was scoring them a 15, and, you know, there was no consistency, and that's not helpful for coaches at all. So I like how there is more direction, and you go to an event and coaches have a much clearer idea of where they should be scoring. But I think it also sometimes, I mean, from my experience, I think sometimes coaches maybe think that they've read the rubric, but actually what is on the floor doesn't match the rubric. But that's why I like, you know, my job at Score Check, and I, you know, at coaches meetings, I always make sure to tell people, come and talk to me. Come to Score Check. Don't be afraid to come to Score Check. And the way that we run things now, obviously you have a certain amount of time after you get your scores released to you that you can come and talk to us. And because mistakes do happen, because judges are human, and you know, there's always going to be some element of human error, I think, until there's like a real defined kind of point system for every single skill, which would be very difficult. Which would be very difficult in our sport, and I think would take away so much of the creativity, which is what we all, well, a lot of us love. But yeah, come talk to me, come ask me a question, and if there's been a mistake, we will say absolutely, and we'll fix it. And so I feel like I've gone off on a tangent, but yeah, no, I mean, I see it's high pressure. There's a lot to think about, and you're right. I think for a lot of coaches, where gyms are expanding and there's so many possible divisions, and people have all these multiple entries, and especially for the programs in the UK that have cheer and dance, I know at Bournemouth, and especially if the coaches are still competing, you won't get a moment to stop and enjoy, because you will be running to warm up, running to another arena. And of course that doesn't feel fun. Not in the moment, I'm sure it doesn't. But I think that it's important that the athletes are enjoying it. And I think that athletes do enjoy events still. And I think for the majority of parents that we communicate with and talk to, I mean, a lot of our like core staff, we have staff on the doors. We don't generally use arena staff for all of these different jobs. Like our core staff will be on the doors talking to parents, on the store chatting with parents, and they seem to appreciate the events, and they're having fun and their kids are having fun, and that's what's important to them. And yeah, that's really great.
Yeah, it's definitely not something I've heard in feedback from athletes and parents. It seems to be a coach's problem, and I think, as you say, a lot of it just has to do with the increase in scale of the whole sport. You know, yeah, if you're back in the day, we were probably taking between 1 and 3 teams to competition as a coach, rather than some people taking 20 plus teams now.
Yeah, and we probably started at 9 o'clock in the morning and we're done by 5. Whereas we're talking about,
and that was with the dancing dad contest, a longest live, 6 rounds of chicken in the hen house. You know, there was time to breathe in the day that just isn't there anymore. So
yeah, and I do know, I mean, that is one thing that I think over the years we have had those comments about, oh, we really liked it when we used to have time to play games, or, you know, when we could do this. But I mean, from a scheduling perspective, which is part of what I do, there aren't enough minutes in the day, and we know realistically that you would like to go home at 8 o'clock in the evening rather than 9:30 because we've played chicken in the hen house and done a parents dance off. We know realistically that that's
could we bring back a proper parent dance off division? I think we need it, perhaps in Bournemouth, the annual parent dance off showdown.
It started to get a little bit risky because people started upping the ante and kind of doing a full Monty-esque routine.
Yeah, when they started tumbling, I've had a few sharp inhales of breath over the years. Perhaps that isn't a good idea.
Do you remember when we used to have time at Bournemouth to do fun games and we had the sumo suits?
Oh, yeah.
That I'd like to do.
I mean, it's a bit like a sumo match in that mosh pit sometimes at the front. So
that's true.
Trying to get through to watch your team is a bit, you have to get in there with the hands and elbows a bit. So no, it definitely has, that scale has shifted. And I'm coming at it from that point of, that negativity. I do appreciate where that's come from and why it is. And actually, I'd probably be the first to complain if we were playing chicken in the hen house. Can't we get on with awards?
Yeah,
so perhaps it's our mentality that's different a little bit, because like you say, it's, a lot of us are professional or semi-professional to some extent. And one of the things Dave was saying when I talked to him was a lot of the pressure he feels with competition is that his athletes and parents are enjoying their experience. He, stresses out constantly because he's worried about whether other people are enjoying it, never mind himself. And I think that's probably the same for a lot of us. As soon as you step in that arena as a coach, you're just thinking warm-up times, awards times, watch this team. So-and-so broke her leg this morning, so I've got to fill in a kid. Whatever else is going on, you see your friend and you walk past going, hey, it's good to see you. I'll catch you later. I've got to run. And,
never seen them.
It's one of the nicest things I found doing these interviews actually is getting to just catch up with people. Like, I can't remember last time you and I got to have a conversation this long, because we're always, if I see you, it's in the building. Hey, how's it going? Got to run, got this to do, whatever. That's been so nice. So yeah, it probably is our fault. I know one of the, we had a great talk on my coaches hangout a couple of weeks ago about just reframing success in your own terms for coaches, and not being all about winning to some extent, and finding other ways to find success when you're in a division with 30 teams in it or whatever, only one of them's going to win. So there's plenty of ways to be successful that day without coming home with the first place trophy, and that's started to lose its way a bit. So I think there's definitely a place for changing the mentality of coaches from the very core, what we do in the gym, right through to competition.
And I think that's right. I mean, obviously, it's a competitive sport, and I'm very competitive. I love winning. Of course, I love winning. Most of us love winning. But ultimately, that isn't what it's about. And my love of cheerleading and my best memories of cheerleading are not to do with times when we won. I mean, we didn't win that much, but that's still not my best memory. My best memories are the trips that we took and the camps that we went to, and, just being around my friends, like my best friends. And I mean, thinking about my friendship groups growing up, most of the people that I'm still in contact with from my childhood or teen years are cheerleading people. They're not the people that I was in high school with. It's the people that I grew up in this sport with. And I think
muggles won't put up with us talking about cheerleading all the time.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah, they just don't want to know. But yeah, I think that those are the important things. It's those memories, and I think it's the kind of the work ethic and the life skills. And that sounds really corny, but I'll talk to Angela at Ascension quite often, and we just, there's so much more to it than winning. And I get it. It's great to win, and it's great to be the most talented athlete and to be the best at these skills that are part of the sport, but it isn't the only thing. And I think if we become too reliant on winning to make us feel good about our business or about ourselves, about our gym, about anything, I think that's also going to add extra stress and extra pressure. But if you know that throughout the season, and not just at competitions, in your gym, that you're creating like a great atmosphere where your athletes, they want to be there, they want to be learning, they want to be at training, they're loyal to you because of the experience that you give them outside of winning. I think that's really, really important. And if you can focus on that, then being at the event, yeah, you're going to be busy, and yeah, you might have to come to score check and query something, but it doesn't have to be stressful in that way. I think especially coming to score check doesn't have to be stressful. Like, you don't have to come and shout at me. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to make sure it's right.
That's the one bit of competition that I do enjoy, though. So
yeah. Goodness.
No, I think it's really been my overriding message to a lot of people, is that if you make winning your only parameter for success, then you're just massively limiting your opportunities to find enjoyment in the sport. If you're only thinking about competition all the time, you're missing out on every opportunity in the gym, in practice, to celebrate what that stunt group just did, or what that kid just did. Okay, you're not going to put that back handspring in the routine because it's not perfect yet, but for goodness sake, she just threw it, it's great. There's so many, you've got to find those extra ways to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, you're too laser focused and you burn out, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to a different field. Well, maybe we'll see how we go. I wanted to pose this one to you. Give us, I think I said give us your top 3, but it could be any number of things you want. What are things from your side of the table, if you like, as an EP, maybe specifically as a scoring, judging type person, whatever, I don't know what that title is, scoring, judging type person.
That'll do.
Yeah. What are some things that you wish people either knew or did, or something, you get that sort of, what are the things that you wish people did better to make your life easier, or to make their lives easier when it comes to competitions? And I mean, beyond that, your entire job, really. World is your oyster.
World is my oyster. Okay, what are my top things? Do you know, I'm thinking about this, and it's been so long since we've been at an actual event. I'm trying to recall the things, because there are definitely things that I find myself saying a lot. I think one thing, like from a scoring perspective, one thing I really wish that everybody would take advantage of is submitting their videos of their skills to ISF for rule checks. And I think particularly for me, because I have always my focus has been on legality judging, and I've sat on the USSF and then ISF rules committee, and that's kind of my niche in the judging side of things. I hate it when we have to take points away for like skills that are performed illegally. And I really, when someone comes and I say, did you submit it, have you got a kind of an okay on this skill, and they say no, but please do it, it's a free service now, especially it's a free service, use it. And no thing is too small to submit, because it's often those small things that you think aren't going to get you any points off, that do, like the things in the dance. Anytime you pick a person up off the floor, it's a stunt. Remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I've fallen foul of that doing choreography, and just your mind's not just in that place. So I've had that come back. Fortunately, usually before competition, but that is definitely, even as an outside choreographer who's well educated, you sometimes just aren't thinking when you're doing dance choreography that it falls under that category. Yeah,
absolutely. And some of the rules, because of the way that the rules have developed, sometimes a rule will be changed because a certain skill shouldn't be happening, but it has a knock-on effect somewhere else. And so I know that the rules don't always make logical sense.
Not anymore.
Potentially. I think now, like with the way that ISF kind of simplified the grid and the way that the rules are laid out, I think that is better. But
Less
yeah,
clarifications and technicalities to try and sift through.
yes, exactly. And you know, all of those things, it makes it hard to judge when it's overcomplicated as well. So anything that we can do to simplify that so that coaches understand it, so that it's easy to explain to athletes, because I think that's one thing that I would see a lot is at the start of the season something would be performed fine, and as the season goes on and the kids get more confident, say maybe with release moves, with the height of a release move at the start of the season, it's fine. When you get to Bournemouth, they're really super confident, so they're throwing and they're releasing that athlete, and now we're at a point where that's now become illegal, and it's gutting, it's horrible, but just those things to keep aware of. But
you find your athletes have changed their grips halfway through the season because they found an easier way of doing it, but they've made it illegal, and you're not tuned into it at that point as a coach. I've seen that before as well.
Yeah, and if they haven't been doing it that way, what you wouldn't have corrected them. And so often, I'll stand at score check and say to the coach, do you want to watch the video? And we'll watch the video and zoom in, and they'll go, I've told them that 1,000 times. And it's, and if it's like a stunt group out of 5, or it's a majority are doing it correctly, then obviously it's not going to be that we give a penalty for you. But yeah, I think so. That's one of my things, is make use of those services that are there, and don't post it in a coaches group and take the answer as Bible, particularly because as certified legality judges, we aren't meant to comment. So the people that are commenting potentially aren't certified, which is probably not the answer you want. So that's one thing. I think in general, just like I was touching on before, if you have a problem with your scores or you think you've been scored incorrectly, come and talk to us about it. We are there to put right anything that might be wrong. And if it's been scored correctly, but you don't understand why it's been scored that way, then we'll give you the opportunity to stand and talk it through and make sure that you know what to do to improve that score going forward. And it doesn't help anyone if you come kind of het up and stressed. We know it's stressful. We know it's really stressful. But everybody's trying their best. The judges are trying their best. We're trying our best as an EP. You guys are trying your best. And it's just, if we can have a polite conversation, a nice conversation, then that just makes it more pleasant for everybody. So that would be something else. And I think on a sort of admin side, please just make sure your rosters are up to date. I think particularly when it affects your team size and we're looking at, ratios and numbers of athletes performing skills, we really want to have that right. And I think, from our point of view, we have lots of checks in place, and we'll count your kids at warm up and check your rosters and go through all of that. But just make sure it's up to date, make sure your information's up to date ahead of an event. And that means we can make sure you're in the right division, make sure that you're getting scored correctly. And that just makes the whole process a bit easier if you've done that ahead of the event, rather than waiting until you're at warm up and then we're having to figure out why our system says one thing, but there's, 3 extra kids lined up waiting to come into warm up. So that, I suppose, is a sort of admin-y, organisational type of thing.
There's plenty of coaches, I think, who love to coach and don't like to do the admin side of things.
Yeah.
So that may create issues.
Recruit a trustworthy parent or something to do your thing, maybe.
And
we do have
make sure that
a
communication's good as well, because a lot of the time the admin person didn't know that you changed an athlete on a team or added one in or whatever else. It's
communication is key.
Oh, it's so hard, I think, when you're I know I've fallen into that trap of just trying to keep those rosters up to date and everything else, and remembering all that side of it, especially when it is a situation like, you've had to change a stunt group this week or change an athlete, whatever. It's usually because of if it's the week of competition, it's usually some stressful situation. So you're just thinking about the routine, and the last thing you want to worry about is updating your paperwork for competitions.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
but
I
it is
think
an excellent point.
yeah, and I think hopefully with the registration system that we have, it's quite easy to log in and take an athlete off and add an athlete in. So, thank goodness, long gone are the days of paper registrations. And
I like paper.
do you?
Do everything in my book. There's no computers around here, well, except the one I'm talking into.
Yeah. But yeah, I think those are my top things that I can think of that would make everyone's life a little easier.
All right. Well, we're about wrapping up, really, unless there's anything else you need to tell the world. Any grand announcements I can have an exclusive on,
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, I've already talked a bit about what our events are coming up, and what plans we've got. I think definitely remember the flight school day, Halloween weekend, put it in the diary. I think I sent a survey out about it last week, and everyone's just so excited to get back. And I think for us particularly, like we were saying earlier, it's rare that we get a chance to sit and talk to each other, and flight school in particular is our one time of year where we really do get that time, and the coaches, you all get the time to kind of hang out and learn but also socialize with each other, and I think that's really important. And I think that as well then makes the competition experience better, because you've got friendly faces, and although you might be competing against each other, it builds those kind of social networking as well. I think it's a really good time of year for that. So yeah, we're excited about that. But no, I mean, I think from our point of view, we haven't closed our offices. We're there. I work from home anyway, so that's fine for us, but we're here. And I think that's the other important thing just to say is, if you need something or you're not sure of something, just pick up the phone and call us, or drop us an email, or we'll call you. We're here to do whatever we can to get kind of through this scenario and look ahead to next season.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. It's been enlightening, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of sure people are going to be very excited, certainly, to hear everything that's coming up. And yeah, we're all feeling a bit sunnier, I think, about the way forward now that we have some kind of road plan. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. And yeah, I mean, we'll look forward, hopefully, everyone, to seeing you in person in the not too different future at some events.
Yay.